Hello and welcome to the week that was, a weekly program where you get to catch up with the headlines of the week. Every week we pick up the headlines from the Voice of Goa, Herald. To discuss this week's headline from April 24th to 29th, I have with me the group editor of Herald publication, Mr. Sujay Gupta. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So without much ado, we catch up with the headlines on Sunday, April the 24th. Where we have a case which has not come to conclusion. That is the hit and run case which took place in Panjim on Easter Sunday. And at that time, Herald had inquired about the progress of the case, wherein the medical superintendent of Azilo Hospital has told Herald that alcohol report of Kampal accident accused was ready, but the police had not picked it up.
Yes, this is an ongoing saga, and Herald has been following this case primarily because we feel that if there is a hit and run, especially when people who have a lot of influence in society and the government supposedly are linked to the main accused, who obviously it was a clear case of very rash driving. We're not even saying drunken driving, where a person has been killed and an innocent life has been lost. Which is why we feel that the pace of the investigations need to be much quicker and much more intense. And one very important aspect of the investigation is to check whether the driver and the occupants, but mainly the driver, the young lad who was driving, was under the influence of liquor or not. Yeah. And obviously there was no spot breath analyzer test done. Nevertheless, a blood test was done and he was sent to Azilo. And what was shocking is that the Azilo medical superintendent wrote to us, sent an email to the editor of Herald stating that in reaction to we raising doubts about the delay, and the medical superintendent, very nice of her, she actually said that look, the report was ready in exactly 24 hours. Which is on the 18th of April. The accident happened on the 17th of April, and on 18th of April it was ready. What was shocking is that about 3 to 4 days later, one of the police constables who was part of the investigating team told us very, very nonchalantly and almost in a dismissive way that the Azilo hospital normally takes a very, very long time. It takes about 10 days for the report to come. And we keep on knocking at their doors and we keep on doing follow-ups and we don't listen. But the medical superintendent's email was absolutely contrary to that. To that effect, where she said that the alcohol reports is called the report to measure the alcohol content in the blood. That was ready in 24 hours, and it is the police which did not show any kind of haste in coming and picking up the report. She said no police officer has turned up in my office to pick up the report.
So the police have been exposed in this case.
Police have been completely exposed, and when this particular email was shown to the police, or when our reports came out, or on the day when we got this particular email, when we went and spoke to them, they were obviously a little taken aback, and they said that look, the particular runner who actually goes to collect these reports, they completely blamed it on the guy who does that, and said he must have got late, and then they suddenly changed tone completely and said that because of our very heavy caseload of backlog of cases, and collecting evidence takes a lot of time, and this is what is happening. So everybody kept on changing their tunes when they were caught out that there was obviously a delay, either a willful delay or a professional delay in getting these blood reports.
So now 12 days to Easter, and what is viewers may like to know what is the status of the case today.
See, the thing is, we are almost as much in the dark as our dear viewers are and our readers are. We know, and it's confirmed that the blood report has been finally picked up from Azilo. That is something that the medical superintendent has confirmed to us. Now it rests with the information officer. For the last 2 to 3 days, the information officer and the PI and others have not been communicating with our team and giving any clear answers. We are making another attempt today. We are recording this on a Friday evening, on Friday late afternoon evening. So as of Friday afternoon, and today is the 29th. So as of Friday 29th, say what's the time now? At 5:15 in the evening, we do not know what is the status of the report as far as what the report contains. and whether the police have in fact at all opened up the report and done further investigations on that, or have they acted on whatever the report says. But they've been extremely tight-lipped. The report has reached the concerned police station and the IO, and one would assume that they know what it contains, which is the reason why we are following up constantly to figure out what that report contains and what are the actions that are going to take place after. But as soon as we get that, we'll update you.
Okay. Okay. So 25th April, there is a debate that Herald TV had done, which is featured in the Herald of 25th April, regarding these issues surrounding the environment. Because in the next 2-3 years, we suspect that the government is going to be on a roll, especially after being voted to power, on various development projects that will take place. And the big question that we posed to the people who participated in the debate was, what would happen as far as the environment was concerned? Would it be the case that all the activists will have to keep on filing cases to ensure that we keep this environment for posterity?
See, the thing is, which particular, you're referring to the debate that we did, right?
Yeah.
No, see, the debate that we did was on a variety of issues. One was, of course, looking at the overall environment aspects in terms of the man-animal conflict in the in the buffer zones, and whether we need a proper tiger corridor and a tiger reserve or not. Because these were issues that were being raised over the contentious remark of Vishwajit Rani, where he said there are non-resident tigers. But the whole debate also moved on to other aspects like the preservation of trees and the fact that a large number of trees are being felled because of many development projects. The overall, and I'll not go into the details of the debate because the debate is there on air and many of you have seen it, but the biggest takeaway from this is that how is decision making being controlled at the government level when it comes to giving permissions for either felling of trees or for any other major decision like having a tiger corridor or having a reserve forest and so on and so forth. Because the general consensus is that the people in the decision making positions are people who fundamentally are not sensitive enough to realize that we are just temporary custodians of the resources that our earth provides to us on behalf of the people who inherit this earth. See, for instance, the resources, the finite resources that are there in Goa are the resources that belong to the people of Goa. And everybody from the forest officer to the environment minister to the forest minister and the common man, all of them have to preserve these resources. People who are in power in the government are only custodians. So when you are taking any decision which leads to the lowering of the natural cover or affecting the forests or affecting the groundwater or affecting the wildlife or affecting buffer zones, any decision which impacts these things negatively should be well thought out, and you should take these decisions keeping in mind what these decisions will do for the future generation. So as Claude Alvar has very rightly said that people in decision making power should ideally be people below a certain age, because they can look forward to the future in every which way, and it should not be left to somebody who's say 56 to 57 years old and is going to retire in the next 2-3 years and never really is sensitive enough to what the future generation will get as far as our infinite resources are concerned.
Moving on to 26th of April, we have this headline in the Herald where the High Court has expressed the displeasure over the unauthorized sand mining and saying that authorities are not doing enough to prevent sand mining.
Yes, this again, one is, but can be satisfied in the sense that this is an issue that Herald has taken up in spite of the fact that it doesn't seem to be a very, very popular topic amongst many of the media. Sand mining, we know that iron ore mining has a lot of issues, but sand mining to the scale and the amount involved and the parties involved are not as big in every which way. But sand mining also leads to the erosion of our river bed, and our river beds become poorer and poorer. The entire ecosystem gets disturbed because if you take so much of sand out, it also leads to the destruction of the embankments and the areas around the river beds, which actually leads to a lot of destruction, and in turn leads to a lot of flooding and other impacts of that area. It also impacts your crops because when flood water gets into your farms, adjoining farms, plantation gets affected. So we took this up in a very big way. we also know for a fact that all the major directions given for the state and the police to actually investigate and catch these sand thieves have not been implemented. In the sense, the police has virtually looked the other way when this has been going on rampantly, and this is something that the High Court has also observed. Yeah. What is shocking is that the previous DGP was, one of the rare officers who actually put out an official note and a directive giving guidelines or giving directives to police officers who are specially stationed in those areas where sand mining is taking place, mainly in the Penne Taluka, Penne, Pisula, that area. Yeah. And we have seen many instances when canoes have come, sand mining has happened, and these canoes have gone away with the police doing nothing. Yeah. They were, I think between the 18th and the 22nd of April, if I'm not mistaken, there were almost 35 to 40 odd canoes which came and went. Yeah. Okay. And the same thing has happened. Now, as soon as the High Court has given this direction, and I would say Herald would have played its also part because we've been incessant in this. Yeah. We have realized, and I think we are proud to say one thing, that when Herald reported on rampant illegal sand mining happening in the month of April, those reports were taken and presented before the court, and the court took cognizance of those reports as well. And the court also mentioned that they have seen the media reports. Yeah. So I think somewhere, Herald has played a part in bringing it to the notice of the court indirectly, albeit, on what the ground situation is, after which the court issued very strong directions. Yeah. It even said that the government is looking the other way, after which the government has really acted, and very swiftly. So one realizes when there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. But now the police is acting, and we see today was the second time that I think 25, 30 odd canoes have been, 30 odd canoes have been seized as of this morning, as of Friday morning. So it's a good sign, and I think the sooner we decide to, the whole menace is eradicated by arresting the sand mafia gang, the better it is.
Okay. So on 27th of April, we have a story on the front page of the Herald, where the Wangini residents have welcomed the NGT order, which does not permit walls or any construction along the coastline.
Yes, this order does not. It's not from a petition which has been filed from Goa, but the order is very important because it applies to the whole of Goa, especially the coastal states.
Whole of India.
Whole of India, especially the coastal states. We know for a fact that there have been several instances in Goa where 5-star hotels have taken it upon themselves to build concrete walls on the beaches, ostensibly to see to that their property is protected and they're not, and it's not ravaged by high tides and the force of the waves and the force of nature. Yeah. But they have used this pretext to literally put up permanent or semi-permanent structures. And there was a big issue in the Wangini beach recently, and there was a big agitation there. And I think that's obviously people have reacted because now there is a very clear NGT mandate that you cannot do this. You cannot build concrete structures on beaches, primarily because those areas in the beaches don't belong to you. Yeah. They are not your private beach. Yeah. So I think this is going to be a very big deterrent to such activities.
Okay. Moving on to Thursday, April 28th, again a very welcome story. The headline in the Herald says, lo and behold, government admits that ore transported from Pisurle was illegal. And in this case, we have found that there is 3 lakh metric tons of ore which was found at one lease in Pisurle.
Yes, this 3.5 lakh tons is a known fact, out of which I think 1.8 tons has been already transported and about 1.2 is there. What is important is that the Advocate General of Goa, Devidas, he told the court, he interestingly told the court that the particular ore which was being transported from Pisurle to barges and then finally to the port to be exported, that itself constitutes illegal mining transportation. Because what is interesting is in that particular lease of the Damodar Mangalji Company mine, it has been seen that there is no mining pit. So there is no mining pit. Ore could not have been there in the first place. The company itself has of course claimed that the ore was bought from another company, and it was bought by Cesar Resources, if I'm not mistaken, and they were doing the transportation. And they bought it on e-auction. But again, the petitioners, that Goa Foundation has contended that as per the court directions, you cannot be doing this. You cannot be having a dump at another place and transporting it into a third place and calling that a dump, and then thereby issuing orders to transport it from the second place outside. Okay, so it is like saying that you have plants in your home, and those plants are transported from one home to another home, and then sent out when it is clearly not allowed. So this is illegal transportation. Firstly, you are showing a dump where there is no mining pit. That itself is is shocking. Secondly, one needs to also ascertain how is that ore being transported without there being any check on what the quality and the quantity of ore is. You also need to ascertain the grade of ore. Without that, how can you even be calculating the price of export? So, it obviously shows that these things are done in a very ad hoc manner. What is sad and what we mentioned there is that what face will the police or the government have to show to Hanuman Parab, because Hanuman Parab is an activist who all along said that this ore transportation is absolutely illegal. And because of which he got brutally beaten up. Now, what face will you show to Hanuman Parab when your Advocate General himself is telling the court that it's illegal? You either compensate him and you arrest the people who beaten him up. And on top of that, when you export ore in this kind of a manner, where you have a dump without a mining pit, the entire calculation of the cost of that ore also has been highly escalated. Then we need to figure out whether this violates the Money Laundering Act also or not. So we need to look at all these things. It's not just a very simple thing here.
Now, on the same day's paper, that is 20th of April, I was just curious. I think our readers also will be curious that there is a single column item. You have just given single column. ODP suspended for 60 days due to discrepancies.
Right.
Why did Herald just take this in a single column? I mean, it doesn't have consequence.
No, the thing is, that was just a major decision. Because there are two aspects to this thought. One is suspension of ODPs for 60 days isn't a very exciting or a huge news unless you know the intent behind the suspension. Because the intent behind the issue is, you can very often what happens is when there is one regime to another regime, if one regime changes and another regime comes of diametrically opposite parties, this happens. But now what happens is this trend is happening even if the same regime comes back to power.
It's a different minister.
Because you have a different minister. So we need to look into the intent of these ODP suspensions. Because as some architects and others very rightly said, that you need to figure out how this plays out. Because if there are ODP kind of violations, you put them under suspension, and the same violations are again passed after 5 or 6 months, saying that no, we now realize that there is no issue here. These so-called discrepancies are well within the law, and then they can continue. So we need to figure out, match the discrepancies that the activists and other environmentalists have pointed out, the irregularities that they pointed out, whether these irregularities are corrected, or the same ODP is just rests for 6 months and comes back and gets back into effect without any changes. If that happens, then one needs to figure out why they were suspended in the first place. So we need to look at that. But it's undoubtedly is a big story, and it deserves page 1. But the intent has to match, and match the decision also.
Finally, on Friday, April the 29th, we have this headline, a very, very disturbing kind of headline, where Welingker says that Saint Francis Xavier cannot be called Goencho Saib. And then we have a very beautiful Herald insight, where many people have circulated this on social media also, that some people even said that Eiffel Tower was not built on Eiffel. Why? By Eiffel.
Well, I think we would leave it to the best judgment of our readers to understand what we meant by this, because we have consciously taken a decision to let viewers and readers understand the original statement and why it was made. We also feel that everybody has a right to believe whatever they believe, whether it is faith or whether declaring somebody king or god or whatever. It's a personal belief of any individual. Now, whether that belief should hold for all or not, also we know what the answer is. But let's look at it this way. We feel that Goa has been a place where harmony and togetherness has been a part of Goan society, and that will never change. And we leave it at that. As far as the Eiffel Tower thing was concerned, it was meant to indicate what these kind of statements are and how they should be taken. And I think sometimes it's best to leave a lot unsaid, because when you leave a lot unsaid, a lot gets said also. So the way we have reacted to this is basically to tell people that as far as Goa is concerned, as a state of harmony and peace and things, there is no possibility of that getting disturbed, because Goans are what they are. I mean, they are good, peace-loving, good people.
Yeah.
So one wouldn't like to kind of overreact or get too perturbed and other things about statements like these. They must have been made by people who have certain beliefs. We just leave it at that. I don't think that's going to affect the strength of what Goa is at any point.
But in terms of editorial decision, I mean, given an option, would there be some thought whether this news item should be carried and given the publicity which it does not deserve, and leave it out rather than put it out?
No, you see, what happens is that when a particular, like an organization or a person has made a remark of this nature, how do you even kind of you cannot comment on it unless you put the news out. By blanking out, you can't have an ostrich-like approach to situations like this. You need to treat it maturely. To treat it maturely, what happens is that you don't blank it out. You have to put it out for that to be in the public domain. Because you cannot take a decision on what the person is saying, whether it is right or whether it is wrong. The person has said it in a public space.
Yeah.
Now, it is entirely up to readers to figure out whether they want to buy that or not buy that, or accept that or not accept that. But you cannot deny a reader a news which is happening, because that news has to be out for people to make their own judgment. And then it is equally important for a responsible paper to present its take and interpret it. So it's important to do that. In our view, we feel it is better to have a open discussion and put it out rather than blank it out, because see, you cannot blank it out. For instance, you see so many other papers have blanked it out. Some papers are blank, not all papers. Some papers have blanked it out. But the issue is that does that mean that the story is hidden in this day and age? We are not living in a cave.
It's viral on social media.
It is, and everybody is talking about it. It's completely viral. Yeah. Everybody knows about it. It's not as if people won't get to know whether if we don't publish it. And then when people know that it's already there, and we as a responsible paper, if we don't put it out and give our take to it, whatever be the take, even if it's obviously a balanced take. But if we don't give that take out, then we are not doing our duty as well. So I think that's absolutely fine.
So at the other end, on the same page, on the same front page, we have this effort of the Vasco police, which issues summons, in inverted commas, to attend a community iftar party.
Yeah, friendly summons. That was just a headline play.
Yeah.
So basically, we wanted to show that the spirit of togetherness exists in Goa in every which way, and on a day when, at a time when there are certain tensions there within the society. It is a huge relief to see that the Vasco police took this wonderful call to have an iftar party in the police station, call people from different communities to sit and have a meal together. And it just shows that this is our Goa. This is the Goa that we know. This is the Goa that we've grown up in. And this is a Goa which is more important and will always be more important and much bigger than any statements and any, comments or anything vitriolic, anything to do with trying to even tamper the fabric of Goa. That will not happen, because these are incidents that really reassure you and put you in a very happy space.
Okay. On that very positive note, we come to the end of the week that was. We hope that you enjoyed the discussions. We hope that you roll back the week with us here on the week that was. I thank my guest, Mr. Sujay Gupta, for all his beautiful insights and the analysis of the news. We hope to see you next week. Keep watching the week that was.